What's up and welcome back. I'm John Stark, back from MovieGuide.com, your favorite blind film critic. And today I'm going to talk about A Complete Unknown. And to you, that's probably me because you probably didn't subscribe to this channel yet. So click on subscribe. Just go with the theme of being a complete unknown. And this film is, it's in the Oscar race. Potentially, it could get some stuff. It's already got a Golden Globe nomination for Best Picture, Best Actor for Timothee Chalamet, and Best Supporting Actor for Edward Norton. It's picked up other awards. I've seen Monica Barberau nominated in Supporting Actress and Elle Fanning in other places. It's gotten some Critics' Choice nominations. It seems on its path, so to speak. It was provided for my consideration. It was provided without audio description. I hate the debut platform. I'm sorry, I do. I wish it's the one platform that I need help to work it. I'd have like a sighted person help me sign in so that I could watch the Searchlight titles that were submitted to me, which sucks. But I don't hold it against the filmmakers. It would be nice if we could figure out how to get the audio description in places, but they're not alone. Very few people include the audio description. So this is I guess, are we calling this officially a biopic? It's more of like a moment in time in folk music that happens to feature Bob Dylan, played by Timothée Chalamet, because it really is a folk music scene. You have a lot of people here who all get their time and they all get to sing and they all get to do their thing. And the funny thing is we kind of open up on Edward Norton, who's playing Pete Seeger. And Edward is in a lot of this movie. He's in a lot of this movie. No wonder he's getting supporting actor buzz compared to some of the other supporting actors like Boyd Holbrook, Scoot McNairy, PJ Byrne. Boyd plays Johnny Cash, by the way. He hasn't gotten the same sort of recognition that Monica Barberau has for playing Joan Baez. But we've also got Elle Fanning. So that's like the cast right there. And it's, Bob Dylan just kind of comes on the scene. He's got his own little thing going on. And he butts heads a lot with Pete into, like what is folk music and playing the hits. And Bob kind of just wants to do his own thing most of the time. And folk music festivals. But Pete also has sort of this, he sort of opens up in this court case, which feels like, a clear victory for him in terms of free speech. But then we kind of bleed out from there into the movie, where eventually we get Bob Dylan introduced into the folk music scene that already sort of exists. And we see it's very balanced. There's a whole scene that's devoted to a recording artist trying to recruit Joan Baez to their label and being like, well, we have this artist, we have this artist. It was Columbia. I kind of remember the scene. That was a good scene. They have, they're listing all the artists that they have, and they're like, but we don't have our, our main folk artists yet. And they want that to be Joan Baez. So, lots of music, lots of like long performances of songs. I don't know if they're being sung over anything because I didn't have audio description. So I don't know if we're watching somebody perform or if it's a song that's being played underneath other things, like a montage kind of type of thing. So I don't know. There's kind of a big concert that takes up a chunk of the movie towards the end, that we're sort of in the little like bow wrap. But it's James Mangold who did Walk the Line, which was a similar film. So it's the second time that he's made a film with somebody playing Johnny Cash, which I'm amused by. And it felt like, honestly, it felt with Boyd that he just wasn't concerned. I hate to say that, but as a fan, I'm gonna just straight up tell you this is not gonna be in my top 10/25 of the year. Um, but there's a stark contrast in the featuring of Johnny Cash here, which is one of the reasons why you haven't really heard anybody talk about Boyd for Johnny Cash. He's like, I've been there, I've done that. I get it. Johnny Cash was here. He's like, I made a whole movie about it. So, um, yeah, Boyd just doesn't get the same sort of shot that Joaquin did as Johnny Cash. But who does is Monica Barbaro. I actually thought she was terrific as Joan Baez, and she has quite a bit to do, and she sings, and it's weird that we're having the conversation about Timmy because he sings and plays and does all of the affectations to make himself sound like Bob Dylan, does a transformative performance. Monica does the same thing for Joan and has quite a bit of screen time, more so than some of the other people playing the artists. Of course, Edward Norton does. See, now hearing about Edward Norton, now I know he's wearing like a nose or something like that. He's got some makeup job, but I also heard he's doing an accent. I was like, I always heard Edward Norton. I don't know what accent people think he's doing, but like that's like listening to Tom Hanks in the Polar Express, where like I guess he finds different flavors in his voice, but I always knew I was listening to Edward Norton. There was never a sense that I was not listening to Edward Norton. So he's not doing enough with his voice where I'm like, oh my God, brilliant. Although he has a lot to do here. So his character is very rangy, whereas Monica's has less screen time, but is more performative in nature. Elle is Elle is in a role that every fucking woman has been in in a film. There always has to be that woman, right? Like there has to be a woman who falls in love with the artist. The artist is an artist. Doesn't have time for love. And Elle's unfortunately tasked with that. It's fine, but I can list like 20 elephant behind performances that are more interesting than her playing the wannabe lover, the I don't know, the distraction, I guess is what Bob sees her as. It's hard because she's not given a ton of screen time. The film isn't that devoted into this relationship. And she just kind of fades back into the ensemble, but she has a couple moments that are nice where she's like, I love you. I don't know if that's weird. And he's like, we just met. So, like, but she's good. But I mean, like, Monica is giving a showier performance and has to actually do a lot more as Joan Baez, and gives like the full performance that she does, like what Timmy's doing, but just for less screen time because the movie isn't about Joan Baez. Although, interestingly enough, we could do a complete unknown 2 and just give Monica a movie. There's nothing that she's very engaging here, and I would love to see her be like a surprise nomination. People don't seem to be paying attention to her. She's a little too new. Although, so is Maggie Madison for Honora and Carlos Gascon. It's like they use that argument on some people to be like, oh well, she doesn't have. It's not, And it's like, well, is it Mikey Madison's time? Like, is it Carlos Sofia Gascon's time? I've spent years talking about her body of work. Like just I don't know. So. It's convenient when it's convenient, and it's used when it's not used. It's funny how narratives shape themselves. I think Monica's terrific. I think Edward Norton, while I think some people have overblown whatever accent they think he's doing, gives a really good performance. But obviously the star here is Timmy, who is really good as Bob Dylan. And the fact that he's playing and singing, some of those songs sound uncannily like Bob Dylan. This dude has done an excellent job. But Um, while it doesn't feel like the typical biopic, like this is not walk the line weird, I'm gonna lambast this because again, it doesn't really go deep into Bob Dylan's life. It really is just sort of about this moment in folk music, which is why you have all of these other artists that float around, and Bob just sort of happens to be one of them. And arguably, for part of the film, Edward Norton is the lead, and then Bob, because he's a complete unknown, he has to work his way in and then take over the movie. So it's an interesting dynamic for him, and I think it's a really strong performance from Chalamet. Might be the best of his career. I'd be willing to have that conversation. Thus far, he is young, so I think he'll top himself. But I'm not the biggest fan of Call Me by Your Name. I don't know why I'm losing my voice. Um, and I would have said probably Beautiful Boy before this. And so my debate would be, is Beautiful Boy or this? Like, what for me would be would I put at number one would be the grand thing. And I think I just need to sit more with a complete unknown, because like Beautiful Boy has had time to sit in my mind and really resonate with me on a level. And I really appreciate the work that he brought to that. And he absolutely should have gotten his second nomination for that film. Um, but he's going to get nominated here. He might win because history looks kindly on this type of performance. And especially when you find out that he's also doing the singing, the playing, it becomes a little bit more impressive. It's like, wow, he really pulled it off. He really nailed it. Um, so the film for me is long. It's 2 hours and 20 minutes. And narratively, because it's not directly about Dylan's life and we're not pushing through history and he doesn't get like a ton of growth, like I can see why people haven't jumped to put this in the top 10, why they feel like it's maybe fighting for the 10th place spot. All of that kind of conversation is very valid because it doesn't feel like an immediate choice. I've seen smaller films this year that we've just kind of left along the wayside that just don't get Oscar attention, that I think are stronger films, and some, obviously documentaries, international features, animated films, and stuff that usually don't land in Best Picture races. Honestly, I think The Wild Robot is a better movie, but are we going to give another animated feature nomination before we would give it to a complete unknown? Probably not. It's rare when an animated feature gets nominated. But I think when you look at the structure of the film, it's an engaging film, whereas a complete unknown is reliant upon the performances of the actors, which is fine because I also love showing up for actors. But when we're talking about the totality of a film, usually I like to marry the performances of the actors with something great. And I don't feel like this is the best thing James Mangold has done. And I don't feel like this is the best picture of the year. So even without audio description. Uh, Not to say that it's not a good movie, not to say that you shouldn't see it. You actually should see it because, like I said, this might be Timothée Chalamet's best performance. We can debate it. I'm good with that. It's not Edward Norton's. You can look at his career. It's fine. We can. I'm not having that debate. This is just he's really good here, but Edward Norton just has a body of work that just surpasses this. This does not feel like we've reached the pinnacle of Edward Norton. I'm not ready to like be like, oh my god, now is the time for his Oscar. No, no, we're not there yet. Um, but I'm really pleasantly surprised by Monica Barbaro. I think she does a really nice job here. So if she came along with the film, I would not be mad. Um, as far as anything else goes, I don't need it anywhere else. I wouldn't, I mean, sound makes sense to me just because it's very music heavy and very concert performance. So everything feels like it has to be like a live performance. Maybe the argument is to see it in the theater if you're trying to get that experience because it feels very concerty, much like the last part of Bohemian Rhapsody was. instead of Better Man, which sort of incorporates the music of Robbie Williams as the movie goes. That's a killer movie, and I prefer that movie in terms of biopic, I guess. But it doesn't have quite that experience that that they're going for, that embraces the music performance like you're watching a concert film. So I hope I've given you some sort of context. It's really hard without audio description. The film wasn't like 100% watchable. It's because there are long scenes of singing. If we're literally just sitting there and holding on somebody on stage, then the film was I got I got a lot more out of the film than I'm thinking I did. But it's the unknown of that. Like, I don't know that that's what that is. So that's where the audio description comes in. So my grade right now is unwatchable due to lack of audio description. I'm going to give it a floating grade of B+, which means it could go up to an A- or it could go down to a B. I don't see this going up to an A. So it's not immediately on my rewatch list, but I would rewatch it at some point. So thank you for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And I will see you guys on the other side.